My friends, what we're hearing right now isn't the sound of future technology. It's the annoying buzz of a Russian Lancet drone crossing the gray sky of Ukraine, looking for an easy target. On the screens of armchair analysts, the scenario seems obvious. On one side, state-of-the-art kamikaze drones, artificial intelligence, and satellites. On the other side, the M777 howitzer, a piece of heavy artillery without an engine, without armor, and that seems to have come straight out of last century's war manuals. They said that heavy artillery died the day the first drone was assembled in a garage. They said the M777 was just a 4-ton piece of metal waiting to be vaporized. They were wrong. Completely wrong, my friends. What are you going to see today is not an old weapon. It's a titanium ghost that learned to hunt in a sky infested with predators. The system didn't expect a conventional weapon to be able to humiliate the silicon era. But to understand how this carbon bow and arrow is deciding the fate of entire cities, you need to understand the physics of survival. The M777, remember this number, is a 155mm system developed by the British BAE Buy Systems, but with deeply American DNA. 70 of its parts come from the United States. It made its debut in Afghanistan, went through Iraq and Syria, but it was in the meat grinder of Ukraine in May 2026 that it proved to be the most important tool in the Western arsenal. The military elite believed that the lack of self-propulsion would make the M777 an easy victim for drone warfare. The real consequence was the opposite. Its mechanical simplicity and the massive use of aerospace materials allowed for an agility that no heavy armored system can replicate, turning it into an invisible sniper which shoots and disappears before the Russian drone can even lock onto the target. Do you understand what that means? It means that intelligence and equipment have outperformed the software. Now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell and leave a like. It takes a lot of work to make this. Let's go. Let's get into the technical details, because this is where the magic happens. The M777 is a masterpiece of materials engineering. While its predecessor, the M198, was a 7-ton monster that required nightmare logistics, the 777 weighs only 4.2 tons. We're talking about a 40% reduction. How did they do it, you ask? It wasn't magic, it was titanium. The large-scale use of titanium alloys wasn't a design luxury. It was a strategic necessity. The use of titanium wasn't just to make the weapon look good in manuals. It allowed it to be transported by helicopters or towed by light vehicles in terrain where a tank would sink up to its turret. The M77 lost weight, but kept its punch. While the old model needed a crew of 9 men sweating and struggling to operate it, the new generation M777 can be operated by just 5 soldiers or even 3 in cases of absolute emergency. It's the difference between hauling a grand piano and handling a finely tuned viol in the middle of a firefight. But what really scares the Russian enemy is the precision. The specialists call it a giant sniper rifle. When you load the M982 Excalibur projectile, it's a whole different story. We're talking about a shell the size of a human torso that uses GPS to hit a target 24 kilometers away with a margin of error of just 10 meters. Imagine a cannon fired from one city and hitting a specific window in the neighboring city. This isn't artillery, it's ballistic surgery. The M777 doesn't shoot at an area. It picks out the target's ID number. The Russians used to think that quantity was quality until they started getting visits from the Excalibur. It's hard to keep the troops' morale up when your command bunker explodes because a titanium barrel 30 kilometers away decided your breakfast would be your last meal. And to understand the real power, let's look at February 2023. In Vuhledar, in the Donbass, the Kremlin sent a massive mechanized column. Tanks, infantry vehicles, and mercenaries from the Wagner Group. They thought they were going to overrun the Ukrainian defenses. What they found there was the M777 acting as a silent reaper. The Ukrainians didn't just use the cannon to shoot at tanks, they used it to sow chaos. And here comes the key detail. The M718 ram shells remote anti-armor mines. Imagine an artillery shell that, when it explodes in the air, releases anti-tank mines that scatter across the ground. Ukraine used the M777 to instantly plant minefields in front of and behind Russian columns. Imagine being a tank driver and seeing the ground around you turn into explosive artillery fired from 20 kilometers away. They were trapped like fish in a barrel. In just a few minutes, 30 heavy Russian systems were turned into smoldering scrap. The use of specialized remote mine ammunition turned an offensive weapon into an absolute area denial tool, paralyzing entire columns and forcing the enemy to choose between blowing up while standing still or blowing up while trying to retreat. And this is not conventional warfare. It's a lesson in applied physics with a lethal ending. As of February 2024, it is estimated that artillery led by the M777 was responsible for 80% of the casualties in the conflict, totaling around 400,000 soldiers killed or wounded. The 777 owns most of this graveyard. You must be wondering, but Shimon, if it's so good, why haven't Russian drones destroyed it? The answer is visceral adaptation. When the Shahed and Lancet drones started infesting the sky, Ukraine changed the playbook. They adopted the scoot and shoot tactic, fire and run. They never stayed in the same place for more than a few minutes. They mastered the art of setting up, firing, and packing up the weapon in record time. But the real secret is what they removed. Many 777s arrived with iPads, ultra-advanced tablets, and digital fire control systems. But the Ukrainian engineers noticed a problem. The electronic signature of these devices was a magnet for Russian missiles. What did they do, you ask me? Did they rip out the electronics? Did they go back to the old school way? No radio signal, no GPS signal emitted on the ground. The Russian drone flies over and doesn't see anything electronic. It's just a metal ghost firing live rounds. They use hammers, short rods to force the shells into the barrel manually. It's rough, it's exhausting, but it's undetectable. Irony, my friends. The Ukrainians found out that sometimes high-tech is their worst enemy. They swapped the tablet for manual calculation, and the result was electronic silence. The Russian drone wastes battery searching for a Wi-Fi signal, which doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the titanium howitzer is already 5 kilometers away preparing for the next shot. And we can't forget about the decoys. Ukrainian engineers build perfect replicas of the M777 using wood, old tires, and sewer pipes. They cost less than $1,000. And Russia, desperate for a victory, spends $50,000 Lancet drones to destroy a piece of wood. That's the economy of war, my friends. I spend wood, you spend cruise missiles, and expensive drones. Who do you think breaks first? Well, in practice, Russia is already broke. The maintenance of this weapon is an epic challenge. The barrel of the triple M777 has a lifespan of approximately 2,500 shots before it loses accuracy or runs the risk of exploding. In Ukraine, these barrels are being pushed to the absolute limit, but innovation doesn't stop. Some Ukrainian units, like the 1st Assault Regiment, have started using hydraulic exoskeletons to help soldiers carry the 155mm shells, which weigh almost 50 kilograms each. This allows a small team to maintain a devastating rate of fire without destroying the operators' backs. And when a unit gets hit, you ask? Well, they don't throw it away. They created Frankenstein weapons. They take the barrel from a destroyed unit, the mount from another, and the sighting system from a third. They work miracles with titanium scrap. Ukrainian soldiers summed it up well. It was designed for Afghanistan, but here we found our own way to fight. They have a reported efficiency of 80 to 95%. That means almost every shot hits the right target. The ability for decentralized repairs and the use of cannibalized parts ensured that the M777 fleet remained operational even under partial logistical blockade, maintaining constant fire pressure on the Russian lines. The 777 proved that with titanium in your hands and intelligence in your head, conventional weapons can not only survive, but also humiliate technology. The sky may be closed off by drones, but the ground still belongs to those with the best artillery. My friends, the checkmate here is clear. The 777 is proof that intelligence overcomes silence. It's the carbon bow and arrow of our era. Simple enough not to be hacked, but built with spacecraft materials to be lethal. The war in Ukraine isn't being won just by those with the most expensive drone, but by those who know how to use what they have in the most visceral and adaptable way. The M777 is the symbol of this titanium resistance against the fragility of silicon. The system believed that the era of big cannons was over. They forgot that, at the end of the day, war is still about who can put more metal on target with the greatest accuracy. The 777 humiliated the drones because it doesn't try to be a computer. It's a tool of pure destruction, operated by men who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Now, I want to know from you, what do you prefer in your army? The fragility of a silicon drone that can be hacked or taken down by an electromagnetic pulse? Or the brute strength and sniper precision of titanium like the 777? Comment down below, titanium or drone? Because I read every comment to understand how you are perceiving this shift in the balance of power. What we discuss here is the raw reality on Ukraine's battlefields, far from the propaganda and marketing of tech companies. If you value real intelligence and want to keep receiving these behind-the-scenes briefings, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave your like, and share this video with anyone who still thinks artillery is a thing of the past. And we continue this discussion on our platform, in our Intel bunker, with more than 3,000 analysts who want to get ahead of the crowd. Don't get caught by surprise. So the link is in the description of the pinned comment and here in the QR code. Come join our Intel bunker. And I'll also leave you a link to our TV and movie channel with excellent recommendations. No woke culture, no whining, with tips for you and your family to enjoy on the weekend. I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.